This cap reminds me, it says Pug Dad, in case your vision is as good as mine and you're sitting in the back because you can't see this. To wish everyone here, well, at least the dads here, happy Father's Day, and all you dads watching online as well. I know that some may find it ironic to make such a wish even as we work to question, challenge, and interrupt patriarchy and the patriarchal system. But patriarchy is about power and oppression and control, while dadhood, when we do it right, is about shared effort and is based in love for our children, and a desire to see them as they work and play toward making our community, our nation, and our world a juster place for all. It's also about celebrating dad jokes in all their subtlety. Welcome to Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are in your life's journey, you are welcome here. We come together each week taking a brief respite from the busyness of the world to be together, to sing some songs together, to listen to inspiring words, to energize ourselves. So welcome to all here and at home, watching on YouTube. Visitors, thanks for stopping by. We look forward to getting to know you better and to engage you in dialogue. You are cordially invited to join us for cookies, coffee, and conversation in our social hall following the service. In that forum, in a more informal and free-form format, I think you'll get a good sense of who we are and what we believe. At this point, let's all get up as we are willing and able and move about the hall, greeting one another as it feels natural and comfortable. Those watching on YouTube, feel free to chime in on chat with emojis.
That was so beautiful. That was so beautiful. I'm tearing up. I know.
It is good to be here. It is good to be here together. And I believe we have some announcements.
Good morning. For the summer months, the children will be staying with us in the service until Time for All Ages and then going to the Makers Space, which is tons of fun. You'll be dismissed after the Time for All Ages. Secondly, I will be leading a Plan Your Own Celebration of Life class, July 7th and 14th. I invite all ages to come to this workshop, either as a practical way to get your affairs in order or as a spiritual moment to think about how you want to be remembered. You can RSVP on Realm, or you can just come. And finally, we take a moment to welcome our special guest musician, Joy Zimmerman, into our worship space this morning. She is a touring folk and acoustic roots singer-songwriter, and her newest album, Where the Light Lives, debuted at number 6 on the Folk Alliance International Folk Chart Top Albums, August 2023. Thank you for helping us cultivate joy this morning. Come, let us join for a moment of peace, a moment of listening to our intuition, a moment of connecting to every moment that ever was before and which will ever come. Please rise as you are willing and able for our opening hymn, number 126 in the gray hymnal, Come Thou Font of Every Blessing.
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune your hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful, may we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young man dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of woe for silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us find ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
Lolly has done this before, and so she's all ready. So as Lolly lights the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we have a momentary technical okay?
Oh, it's over here.
That one probably doesn't work well.
Nothing to see here. Oh, here we go. Okay. Group effort.
Yep. Now Lolly has lit our chalice, and so let us together affirm that love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Good morning. Each month, we as a community take time to reflect on a theme. This month, the theme is renewal. When I was 16 years old, I was invited to attend a Wednesday evening youth group at the First Baptist Church in my small town. My family had never seemed serious about church, but to be social in this town meant going to church. Christianity, like Friday night football, was a part of the culture. From this culture, I learned about sin and developed a deep fear of hell in my early childhood. So on my first night of youth group, when the young pastor told us how to guarantee our place in heaven, I jumped at the chance. Until I graduated high school and left that small town, I attended church twice on Sunday, read the Bible from cover to cover, and learned to pray just as the youth pastor modeled. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this and that. Please forgive me for this and that. In Christ's name I pray, amen. I see some head shaking. You can relate. the same beginning and the same ending each time. Prayer, a spiritual practice that I thought was supposed to connect me with God, quickly became a source of stress. If I messed up and didn't say the beginning or ending perfectly, I often started over. I did not feel connected to God, and I was beginning to feel disembodied from myself and the earth. After all, I was taught that my body, especially a woman's body, and everything on this earth was inherently sinful, so my focus was to be on my soul and a place called heaven. Leaving for college brought some relief from the stress. Religion and philosophy courses broadened my spiritual ideas, but there was still something missing, and I found myself still longing to create a spiritual practice that would allow me to feel embodied, connected to the earth, and maybe something bigger than myself, perhaps a higher being, though I wasn't so sure about that anymore. But every time I tried to pray, I fell into the same repeated formula I learned in my youth. So I mostly avoided all spiritual practices for the next 15 years. 2 years ago, I accepted the DRE position here. I saw an opportunity to ask questions, learn new ideas, and develop some spiritual practices. The first time Rev Rose visited my home, I asked her about prayer and how to pray. Like a good UU, she listened, but she gave me no answers. Because this is my journey. One thing I love about UUism is that it invites me to be curious. So when a young 9-year-old neighbor girl who lives in an intentional community of Catholic workers invited my family to their monthly community dinner, I said yes. I met many wonderful people that evening, and after mentioning that I had just finished reading Catholic theologian Gustavo Gutierrez, A Theology of Liberation, I was invited to join the community's reading group. At the first meeting, I was greeted by a woman who said, "Welcome to our Divine Feminine Book Club." A Divine Feminine Book Club in a Catholic community? I was hesitant. I was hesitant about taking part in a Catholic community, but more than that, I realized I knew nothing about the divine feminine. In all the churches I had attended, there was nothing feminine about religion. I only knew male voices and male stories. But as Rev Rose says, we dare not fence the spirit. So I stayed at that first meeting, and I've kept going each month for the past year. I've become friends with 5 radical Catholic women who try to live in solidarity with the poor, who discuss the patriarchal limitations of Marxism, who are firmly rooted in their bodies and the earth. They seek the knowledge of their grandmothers, and they trust their own intuitions. One afternoon, my friend Amelia mentioned praying the rosary as she worked in the garden that feeds their community. So I asked her about the rosary and began learning about its history. I learned that while early men would sit quietly meditating for long periods of time while hunting, women would pray using beaded objects, things they could wear while gathering food, preparing meals, and teaching their children. And each spring they would create garlands of flowers, roses, to honor the great cosmic mother who provided for them and taught them the cycles of life, death, and resurrection. When I saw some rosaries for sale at a neighborhood Hispanic market, I thought about purchasing one. But I first questioned if I should. I'm not Catholic. I thought the woman behind the counter is going to wonder why I'm purchasing a rosary with an image of Our Lady Guadalupe. Do I need to be Catholic to pray the rosary? If so, why would I want to be engaged in a practice that is connected to an institution that has caused people great harm? I bought 2. I gave one to Amelia, and I asked her how to pray the rosary. She said, while Catholicism teaches specific prayers to say the rosary is for everyone to create their own experience. She told me that the rosary that does not belong to Catholicism. It's a stowaway from earlier matriarchal traditions. She said, when I began praying the rosary, I first focused on breathing, feeling the rosary between my fingers and listening. I learned to pray on my grandmother's rosaries. They guided me. She mentioned how the rosary is like a portal you enter that connects you to the past and future, the cosmic cycles. That is why you pray in a circle. There is no beginning, there is no end. She said, you just need to spend some time with your rosary. You will find your own way. So I have been praying the rosary. And each time I experience something new, unlike the prayers I learned in my youth, with the same beginning and the same ending. With the rosary, there is so much mystery and newness each time I pray. My favorite rosary is wooden, and I imagine the end of it rooting me to the earth, the here and now. Sometimes I reflect on my life journey and how I can create a heaven on earth, turning my prayers into action. Other times I wrap my rosary around my wrist and take a walk outside and let nature teach me something new. I'm beginning to slowly find my way back to the knowledge and wisdom of my body and its connection to this great interdependent web of life, something the Christian church taught me to reject. I'm also finding something completely new to me in religion, the feminine. Like me, you may also come to this place with religious wounds in need of healing. I know how easy it is to reject and avoid spiritual practices like prayer that are associated with those wounds. But as my neighbors are teaching me, healing religious wounds does not mean detaching myself from all things religious, but working to reclaim and renew those practices for myself. Just like the rosary is for all of us, the divine feminine is too. We all, both women and men, benefit from feminine voices and practices. The divine feminine has taught me that religion and prayer do not have to be linear with a clear beginning and end. We are all part of a cosmic cycle, and so are these spiritual practices, all stowaways with ancient memories. We find meaning in them when we make them our own on our own journeys. Thank you. All right, and now I would like to invite the children forward, and we're gonna keep talking about some beads, meditating beads. Welcome. Come forward. Arjun, you want to sit right here? You want to sit right here? All right, kids. You know, I'm feeling really grateful today to have found this church community because, you know what? Unitarian Universalism encourages us to explore all sorts of beliefs and practices. One practice I've been learning a lot about is meditating using beads. And I brought some beads with me today to share with you. So I'm going to pass this basket around. Everyone take one beaded bracelet. You want to grab one? In the past few months, I've been learning about meditation beads, and I've learned that they exist in almost all religions: Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam. They all use beads as part of their spiritual practices. And I brought some with me today. Some of the beads, like the ones you're passing around, are made of glass or minerals. This beaded bracelet I have in my hand here, I picked up in Japan at a Buddhist temple. And some don't use beads at all. Sometimes they're made out of string or cord, like this blue one, where you tie knots, and they feel like beads, but they're not. This was one that my friend Mary gave me. And some of the oldest ones are made out of seeds, shells, and sometimes even bone. And this one that I'm wearing is wooden. It's my favorite one that I got from a church in France. Do any of you all know about fidget toys? All right. Who can tell me what a fidget toy is? Lolly, I saw your hand. Something, yeah, sometimes you can pop them. Those are very popular. Yes. A puzzle? Yeah, so sometimes there are puzzles you play with in your hands. I've seen those. Yeah. A stress reliever. Yes, some people use them for that. Mm-hmm. I've seen those too, a cube, and there's lots of different things you can do with it. Yeah, and these are all things we hold in our hands. And sometimes they're just fun. Sometimes they're about problem solving. Sometimes they help us focus. And as Quinn was saying, sometimes they can help us relieve stress or to find a calm space when we're feeling overwhelmed. Yes? Oh, nice. She has a Rubik's Cube that helps her. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, they help you relax. Yes, and that's, beads can also, these beads are kind of like, they remind me of fidget toys, because I see you guys using them right now in your hands and playing with them. So I want to show you today how you could use these beads as a way to help you focus or relax or find a calm space. So let's do this. I'm going to take mine, and I want you to take the bead off your wrist and just put it between your fingers like this. All right, and then I want you to take your pointer finger and your thumb, and I just want you to feel one of the beads and roll it around in your hands. Yeah. Really focus on feeling that bead. And then imagine that your whole body is connected to that bead. And then something I like to do is when I'm focusing on the bead, take a deep breath and release it. Let's practice. And then you can move to the next bead. Move to the next one. Feel that one. And take another breath. And soon what will happen is you move from bead to bead, you will start to feel yourself getting into a calm rhythm. So it can be a really great practice for you if you're feeling overwhelmed or need to calm down, or maybe you're bored and you just want to focus on something. That's great too. Instead of breathing, sometimes I may like to repeat a phrase to myself, especially if I'm feeling stressed. So I might say, as I'm taking my breath, I am in my body, and my body is safe. What is something you might say as you are meditating on the beads? Can anyone think of something you might say? Yes. Oh, you could count using the beads. I love that too. That would be a great way to focus. Rev Rose, is there anything you might you could say?
I might say, well, I have this phrase that I use for myself, and it's maybe, maybe not, because I get really involved with whether or not something's going to happen. So I would say maybe, maybe not. I don't know, and it kind of makes me feel more open.
I love that. So, I want you to take these beads home with you. It doesn't matter how you use your beads. What matters most is that you make the experience meaningful to you. So take them home and explore all different ways you can use the beads to connect to your body and your feelings. All right, and now at this time, let's sing the children out to their classes.
What a delight to be with you this morning. I wanted to share a song that I wrote. It's the first song that I wrote after a brain hemorrhage that I had in 2010. And that whole experience gave me a new perspective on life. All we have is this moment in time. We know this for certain in our lives. Only one brief, beautiful moment in time. What is it speaking to you? I wanna listen hard. I wanna live out loud. I wanna go gently on the earth. I wanna be proud of these moments, all strong together, like the lights along the way, like the lights along the way, like the lights along the way. All we have is one humankind. We know this for certain in our lives. Only one mass of people, all intertwined. Who is calling to you? I wanna listen hard. I wanna live out loud. I wanna go gently on the earth. I wanna be proud of these moments, all strong together, like the lights along the way, like the lights along the way, like the lights along the way. So much radiance shining down, leading forward, beaming on, and all we have is this moment divine. We know this for certain in our lives. Only one big, beautiful moment to shine. What will you choose to do? I wanna listen hard. I wanna live out loud. I wanna go gently on the earth. I wanna be proud of these moments, all strong together, like the lights along the way, like the lights along the way.
We come to this place to see and be seen, to teach and be taught, to hear and be heard. I invite you to reach over and nudge the person sitting next to you, reminding them that we are gathered here together in peace and in authenticity and intention. We also come to this place to share our joys and sorrows. If you have a rare joy or a profound sorrow, please come forward and share briefly.
Can you hold that? I'm lighting a candle in memory and grief for a Unitarian Universalist who died 50 years ago. She was a young childhood educator. She was a humanist, a liberal. She was a member of the National Organization of Women in the 60s. She was a person who, when she saw the New Yorker essay that James Baldwin wrote in 1963, she heard that as an important message for her that pointed towards the future she wanted. This person was my mother. Her name was Dorothy Colm, and last Tuesday marked 50 years since she died. For me, it's been a time to think about in some ways how she was a stowaway for me in my life, a guiding light in many ways, and I'm grateful for that. And to think about the 50-year increment of time. She wasn't there for my wedding or the births of my children. She never got to know my husband or my children, and I feel such grief in that. And so it feels meaningful, since she was a Unitarian, to light a candle here in memory of her today. So.
Some of you who attended All Souls would know Kent McCusick, who was an interim minister there several years back, and then he was the called minister at the fellowship in Ames, Iowa. He died recently, I found out, so I'm lighting a candle for Kent McCusick, who was a great person and a great minister.
I'm Alyssa, and I have a great joy because on Friday I finally completed 2 years of treatment, and I'm all free of it.
So happy for you.
Good morning. I'm Betsy Edmonds. I'm lighting a candle of remembrance for my father, Bill Edmonds, for Father's Day. Thank you, Dad.
Hi, I'm Tracy, and I'm lighting a candle for my mother. Happy 93rd birthday. Thank you.
I light the remaining candles. I light the remaining candles for all of the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. Please join me in singing our affirmation.
We hear your words. We witness your life in all of its heaviness, in all of its brilliance, and we carry your joys and sorrows
Let us come more fully into this space. I invite you to put your feet flat on the floor. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable, allowing your breath to deepen. And to aid us in our meditation practice that we're going to do today, I invite you to put your palms up. We will be sitting for a moment of silence, and during this moment, I invite you to open yourself to your intuition, noticing if there is a word that arises or a sentiment that arises that we might use in our meditation. Drawing your attention to your breathing, letting the corners of your lips turn up. We'll be here for 1 minute. If your mind is wandering, draw it back to your breathing, back to your embodiment. And now in your mind's eye, I invite you to start formulating your own little mantra. Maybe it's a word. Maybe it's a phrase. And then I'll invite you to touch your first finger to your thumb. And say your mantra. And now touch your middle finger to your thumb. Say it again. And now your ring finger. And now your pinky. Taking a moment to notice the shape of your hand, the feel of your finger pads. Enjoying this moment. This should be fun. This should be freeing. And I'll allow you to just do it one more time. You may remain doing your mantra. You may put your hands open in your lap as we sing our meditative hymn.
Sing with me. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy. May you
hear these words of Barbara Wells. O spinner, weaver of our lives, your loom is love. May we who are gathered here be empowered by that love to weave new patterns of truth and justice into a web of life that is strong, beautiful, and everlasting.
Let me introduce you to the idea of a stowaway. A stowaway is something from the past that has secretly boarded the vessel of your life and has been quietly and patiently waiting to be discovered or rediscovered. For example, maybe you never thought you had a musical bone in your body, but then you found a photo of your own dad passionately playing the piccolo with a full-piece band. This memory, this uncovered artifact of your past might dramatically change how you understand yourself. Or maybe it's something you used to know but forgot. Like I forgot that I had a box full of Tibetan Buddhist mala beads, and it wasn't until Jen brought up the rosary that I got them out and held them in my hands, probably after 10 years. And I actually meant to bring them today, but I also forgot them at home. Maybe there are little secrets in our personal and collective spiritualities that have been stowed away as we go. We think about this in our starting point class, which is the class you take to become a member, where we ask people to reflect on what they leave behind from their religious past and what they treasure. I think this is so beautiful because it says, all aboard, and a bunch of little stowaways get to run onto the ship too as it leaves the harbor in search of a new port. In a report that was published by the UUA, the Widening the Circle of Concern report, it was mentioned that in the effort to find a new, safe spiritual home, many UUs bypass healing. In the face of sometimes even religious trauma, some just want a new space that is good and right. But it's not always that simple, is it? There will be things here that aren't perfect, and cutting off of our religious past can fall into one of those traps from the religion that hurt us so badly in the first place. The dualism, the pursuit of perfection, time being linear, which are ways of thinking that might keep some of those precious treasures, those stowaways, locked below deck. And now, because the inspiration for the service today was Jen's stowaway of her religious lineage that has been hiding since her great-great-great-grandmothers were gathered around the creek doing rituals, let us turn our attention to the concept of the divine feminine. By the divine feminine, I mean the emotional, the intuitive, the mysterious, the nonlinear, the natural, the cyclical, the grayscale. I mean survival over power, longevity over quick reward. I mean collective liberation and relationship over violence. These are spiritual concepts that have been oppressed in so many religions. And because of this, we all are spiritually oppressed. Because the concept of the divine feminine is necessary to everyone. So in this moment, because we've been saying the words the divine feminine, I invite you to take a second and notice if you are shutting off. And I invite you to wonder why. Why don't I feel included in this? Why don't I like this? Well, part of that answer is that there's been so much violence towards women in religious leadership and in religious spaces. And thus the interpretations of the divine lack half of the experience and intelligence of the human population. Let us look at the way that the divine has often been interpreted. that God is a very linear guy, all-knowing, all-powerful, perfection, static, which has rung empty for so many of us and left so many questions. How could an all-knowing, all-powerful, loving God allow evil to happen, and why? The problem of theodicy. And why the plagues? Why the punishing? And ultimately, why the sending your own child to be publicly and brutally tortured? It's troubling and has caused many of us in our cultures to throw the Bible out, to step away from communities today which lift up these stories as literal because it encourages such fear, disembodiment, and inflicts religious trauma on people. Maybe you've let go of these stories yourself. Or maybe you're like me and never cracked a Bible until my 20s when I got curious about what all the fuss was about. I was raised a strict atheist in a UU church, and my first introit to the Bible and to the concept of God was in a feminism and religion class in college, in which I was shown these terrible anti-women stories in the Bible, the femicide, the incest, the one-dimensionality, and through this lens I was taught to name how it is happening still around us. Therefore, the Bible was used to hold up a mirror to see how the feminine bodies in my very eyes were being controlled, disregarded, and done violence to. These women that I learned about were like the Bible superstars. Eve with her supposed original sin, Esther who saved her people, the unnamed concubine who was chopped into 12 pieces and sent to the 12 tribes of Israel, Yael who lured the leader of the opposing army into her tent and then killed him, Deborah who brought everyone into war. Somehow these women all seemed to be either very sexualized or upholding of violence and more colonization. But just like the majority of us are not celebrities, the majority of women in the Bible are those quiet little stowaways, glowing little gems that can offer us very cool spiritual insights. Like when I read the Bible, I don't find an all-knowing, omnipotent, unchanging, static father figure who governed his chosen people with a cruelty. But rather, I find a deeply flawed, emotional, relational God who existed in a pantheon and evolved alongside the people and alongside its own peers. I find a God who could learn and did. Thus, Jen and I chose one story to tell you today that reveals how humans could relate to the earth, to reality, and to each other. This is a story about a widow who has a powerful encounter with the divine and with the land, but it wasn't just powerful for her, it was also powerful for this character of God. Let me tell you the story. It is just a little 10-lined story, and at the beginning of it, God was in their territorial era and was locked in a power struggle with another god named Baal. Now, God was very jealous of Baal because Baal was very sexy. He was a fertility god. He had a big lightning bolt, and he made the rain, and therefore the crops grew. And meanwhile, God was described as rather weak and ineffective. All of the Israelites were worshiping Baal, and God had a crisis and did something terribly immature and proved that Baal wasn't the one who controlled the rain. And God caused a terrible drought that went on for 3.5 years, saying, "There will be neither dew nor rain, except at my word." And the people suffered. One of those people being Elijah, who was a good friend to God even through this difficult moment. So God sent Elijah into a foreign land of what is now Lebanon and told him there would be a widow waiting for him who would serve him bread, oil, and water. Elijah set out on this dangerous walk, which he survived only because the ravens fed him meat along the way, until he reached what is now Surafend, Lebanon, and there indeed was a widow at the well, and Elijah said, "Bring me a little water in a vessel so that I may drink." And she said, "Okay," and went to bring it. And then he called to her and said, "Bring me also a morsel of bread in your hand." And then she had had enough, and she said, "As your God lives, I have nothing. only a handful of meal in a jar and a little oil in a jug. I am now gathering a couple of sticks so that I may go home and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die." She said, "As your God lives, we die." And what happened? God changed God's mind and brought the rains back, and her flour did not run out, and her jug of oil did not run dry. Here we see a God that learned, a God that is relational. And if we as liberals interpret God to be our reality, we are reminded that this is not just the way it is. That we have a real powerful agency to affect how the world emerges. That we are not just headed straight to an end or to a hell, but are part of an ever unfolding process of shared co-creation with the universe. And more so, God learned from someone who was not a chosen person, affirming our universalism, and even more so, she was in fact a lowly, starving foreign widow, reminding us that God in this book is always on the side of the oppressed. And finally, we see here that the earth and survival are at the very heart of what is sacred. So when people say the divine feminine, what I hear them saying is that we all have a part of ourselves that is this widow. A vulnerable part, intuitive, connected to the cycles of the earth. And we are all someone whose survival depends on a world that listens to the feminine voice. We are all someone whose survival depends on a world that listens to the feminine voice. We all need to be able to say enough is enough. That so long as the gods of war and weapons and destruction and hatred live, we die. So long as the environmental disregard and racism and consumerism lives, we die. So long as women in the land are oppressed, we die. And from this, we come to a space in ourselves where we could do more radically for the earth. We come into a mysterious space inside of us where we know that the world does not end, that time is circular, that there is no hell or violence or punishment that we deserve or that is necessary, that we could just let the soft animals of our bodies love what they love, that repair is relational, that there's actually a whole lot that's more important than who's the biggest and most powerful, and that is life itself as it emerges before our very eyes. This tender spark in each of us, so vulnerable and precious. And after all, we all come from matriarchal societies. In the beginning, we were all developed in the still waters of a feminine body. We all have a religious history that has a deep integrity of goddesses, and that is not woo-woo, that is just a fact. The divine feminine is an authentic stowaway for every single one of us here. There is so much ancient knowledge that we need right now in our world. So many stowaways that are out there waiting for us to come to them with a curious mind and a careful eye. Ways of being, memories, sifting through what we have been given and what we have been told is not true, and finding what could serve us now in what is truly a tender moment for our globe. We could liberate ourselves from many of the beliefs we've held. We could grow into the fullness of our beings and live through this particularly difficult chapter in Earth's history. So I invite you to ask yourself, In your search, have you bypassed any healing? What ancient knowledge, what spiritual practices, what treasures are stowed away in you and have been quietly and patiently waiting to emerge?
Before making the pitch, I think it's always good to thank those who've already offered things here today. That would be Jen, Daniel, Joy, Reverend Rose. So thank you for your gifts in making this worship service better. The offering is the sacrament of a free church. It is supported by the voluntary generosity of those who join with us. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values.
See with new eyes, a new way, when I help with new hands, in a new day, when I hear with new ears, as I pray to cast my life anew, when I think with new thoughts, in a new way, when I sing a new song, into a new day, when I love with a new heart, as I pray to cast my life anew. Wash me clean so I might start again. Help me love as you. Show the path that I may travel on to try and follow you. When I hope with a new mind, a new way, when I dance with new feet into a new day, when I speak with new words, as I pray to cast my life anew. Wash me clean so I might start again. Help me love as you. Show the path that I may travel on to try and follow you. Renew us all, oh renew us all, that we might spill over with love. Renew us all, oh renew us all, that we might spill over with love. That we might spill over with love. That we might spill over with love.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Please rise as you're willing and able for our closing hymn, Blue Boat Home.
I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now,
This week, I invite you to engage with the history in some way, whether it's your own personal history, looking at photos, going through journals, searching for your stowaways, or history of our people. Go in peace.